You're listening to The Growth Process, where we discuss authentic and proactive marketing, sales, and management strategies to grow your business. Strap yourself in for real topics with real leaders on real growth. No matter what size company, you're in the right place. Now your host, Tim Rohling with Rohling Growth Advisor.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Growth Process Podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Angela Thurman. Angela is the Principal Managing Director at Thurman Company Project Management. Thurman Company helps small to mid-sized organizations with strategic technical project management. Angela's career includes work with NASA as an electrical engineer. Angela, welcome to the Growth Process Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Why don't we start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Well, I'm an electrical engineer. I have a background in telecommunications and aerospace. I've been in project management for technical projects for about 30 years. Started out at NASA, went into telecommunications in the mid-90s, and then eventually returned to my aerospace roots with a major U.S. Aerospace company for the last 10 or so years. And then at the end of 2020, with all of the impacts of COVID, I found myself without a job. So I spent some time thinking about what my next steps should be. So about a year ago, I launched Thurman Co. I'm in Houston, and my company offers technical project management, contract management, and supply chain management, particularly to small to medium-sized organizations, primarily in highly regulated industries. Although my perception is that project management is industry agnostic.
Agreed.
So we do service companies across a wide range of industries.
I love the engineering background and doing technical project management. That's fantastic. My background's in engineering as well, so I think that process mindset bodes well in the business community, whether it's sales and marketing or process development and technical project management. Tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you work on.
So we've worked on process improvement, actually launched the company in response to a request from a European software company that needed some process improvements. And then I worked for a major logistics company here in Texas that was implementing a software development. And then now we're looking at or working with clients that are doing ERP sales and development, large construction projects, aerospace projects. We did recently have a client come to us that wanted a unique software tool developed, all sorts of projects.
So really anything they might need from a project management perspective that they don't necessarily have the bandwidth internally to handle.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Which I think some of these projects can probably get very, I know they can get very involved. So your expertise there would be invaluable.
So we have a team of project engineers that are ready, willing, and able to support whatever type of projects our customers want. And that includes both remote or on-site. And the team is growing, and I continue to recruit new PMs to support those customers.
What types of systems are out there to help organizations manage their projects? When we first talked, you spoke a little bit about Agile with a little a versus Agile with a capital A. Can you explain that a little bit?
So it seems like every client that comes in says, oh, we want to use Agile. And I think that they think that Agile simply means nimble. And no, it doesn't. So in project management, an Agile project is typically used in software developments. So one of the aspects of an Agile project management philosophy is that at the end of every sprint, you will deliver working software. So if you're not expecting to deliver working software,
right,
you're not really going to be working an Agile project management philosophy. So, but Agile with a small a, there are aspects of the Agile process that can be incorporated. So the idea of iterative development, but you're constantly looking at the requirements and iterating the design and the solution in short bursts of time or sprints.
Interesting. Yeah, I love the concept you mentioned there of not necessarily having a rigid schedule. When I think of project management, I think of the linear Gantt chart, and
Yes.
if you don't hit the date, you kind of slide it forward, which can sometimes feel like you're failing on the project. But I think to your point, that's part of the process.
Yes.
But with a better
Yes.
tool than just an Excel sheet or a Gantt chart.
Oh, yes. So having sort of grown up in project management, Microsoft Project is one of my favorite tools. I love it. And one of the things I do love about it is that you can use as much or as little of its capabilities as fits your situation or your scenario. And its capabilities are very deep and rich, but not everyone has the ability or the training to use all of those tools. So I also like that it works at a very superficial level to just put together a simple schedule and march through it.
So do you
And you can
also
be successful with that.
Sure. So do you also help to train and coach people within organizations that want to be better project managers?
Absolutely. So not only my own team, but hopefully when we leave a client's project, they will have some better tools, solutions. We'll have provided them with, say, a project charter. And then they can maybe use that going forward as a template for their projects in the future.
Project management in business is just so critical. When you break it down, virtually every aspect of what we do is project management. It could be a process you're working on in human resources and sales, accounting, whatever. It doesn't matter. What have you seen are some of the best tactics or best practices for project management?
Implementing risk management. I think that there are so many organizations that have sleeping risks. Those will eventually waken, and the organization is unaware of that because they're not registering the risks that they may face. And so there's a difference between a risk and an issue. And so when that risk materializes, it becomes an issue. And then you have to deal with it. And the costs of dealing with it when it is an issue, when it has in fact occurred, are much more significant than trying to mitigate it when it is only a risk or potential. The thing is capturing lessons learned. So when you're on a project and something has happened and you learned from what happened on that project, sharing those lessons learned with the rest of the organization. And very few organizations have an effective means of doing that.
Yeah, no question. Do you find that the risks and the learning are the best aspects of project management? That you uncover the risks through solid project management?
I think that probably is, because typically we think of project management as completing the task, delivering the product or the project on schedule, and staying within your budget. And those are the things we sort of measure and we expect out of a project manager. But what differentiates a really good project manager are those other things, like risk management, the communication tools, the lessons learned.
From your work in project management and engineering or otherwise, what does business growth mean to you?
Business growth for me is going to be, and this from a project management perspective,
Sure.
is going to be being able to take on more complex projects. So either more complex technology, more moving parts, larger teams, maybe bigger and bigger budgets. That would be growth on the project management
I love that.
perspective.
And that's my favorite question to ask, because depending on the person, there's a different answer from everyone, and you're taking it from a project management perspective, which is great. You know, the ability to take on bigger projects, more complex issues, coaching the team. That's good stuff. What changes have you observed in the past 3 to 5 years on how you might approach growth, or in your case, projects?
Projects, I think, are becoming more and more complex, particularly with the COVID pandemic. Supply chain, material management, that has impacted everyone. And it's not as simple as it was a few years ago. You can't, that in itself is a risk that has to be managed. And so whereas before we just expected, well, I'll place this order for my machine, my equipment, and let's say I'm building a factory and I'm going to need some equipment for my factory that will help produce the products that I eventually will deliver to customers. Well, in the past, you had placed the order, it had certain lead times to get those machines. Now all of that is out the door. You don't know when you're going to get your machines.
Right.
Yeah, so you really have to keep a close eye on that kind of schedule and have mitigation plans for what will happen to the schedule if those delivery dates are delayed, how you're going to continue to work in light of those kinds of delays, how you'll reutilize your workforce. I think that's a big part of it.
How about the future of project management? Are there automation tools that can help to expedite the process?
Certainly using, I think that the project management tools like Microsoft Project has automation in it as far as the scheduling, balancing your workload for your resources. And that's just a matter of utilizing the tool more and more. And as the projects become more complex. So there certainly is that capability. And there are many, many project management tools like that.
What's your take on sales and marketing as a project? You know, when I look at sales and marketing and blending those two disciplines, which we're seeing more and more, and making them less siloed, which needs to happen. What are your thoughts on managing sales as a project in general?
I think that that's a great idea because of the different types of tasks that need to be completed, whether it's at a particular account level or overall. And I think that this is probably one of the instances where you could probably approach it with more of an agile mentality because it will be iterative. And I don't know that you ever actually will get to a point where you would stop those iterations. Obviously, if it's in sales, hopefully you'll get to the point where you complete the project by signing a contract or getting the PO, something like that. But there will be continued iterations as with that account you go back for the next order or improvement on the product or so forth. But I think that there are tasks along the way that you want to track. So have I made those touches with that account? I think that it definitely can be looked at from a project management perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's critical too in building that process in your day, which we have the linear sales pipeline, and we try to have that be our project management tool. I think it can be a little more involved than some organizations do. And you mentioned something very important there. So often we close a deal and we think we're done. You know, no, that's really the start of the relationship so that you can gain the next order if you do a good job. And then not only gain the next order, but have that customer become an advocate and shout about your business from the treetop so that you can gain referral business. And I think all that can be drilled down into a process that you manage.
Absolutely.
What does human leadership mean to you when you look back at your experience in your current business or otherwise? What have you experienced there? And what do you think it should be?
Human leadership, I think of that as not being management by objectives,
Okay.
but and not being strictly achievement of goals, but a lot more personal. And am I working with my team at a personal level? Do I know them as a person? Do I know their kids' names? Do I know what their birthday is?
Right.
And, I mean, one of the things that I do with my team is, yes, I know when their birthday is, and I send them a greeting card. Usually it's a funny e-card, dancing penguins and stuff like that. But also, do I know what their career trajectory is? Because they may not want to work for me forever. They may have big goals, and that's okay. More power to them.
Right.
But in my career, there have been specific leaders that have been mentors and really helped develop not only my tactical skills, but also the skills I needed to advance Whether it was telling me you need to develop some presentation skills because I want to put you in front of people. And I needed to hear that. And I needed to hear why. And that was very, very helpful. And that's the kind of leadership that I appreciated and that really meant the most to me.
Sure. So the individual.
And I think that that's the human level that we really need.
Yeah, I love that. And we have two engineers here talking about human leadership, and we often get the reputation of not being so human. But at the end of the day, it's really about that one-on-one relationship and what do you know about that person, and how can you help them advance their career, which you've experienced.
I earned my project management professional certification, and that has indicated to others that I was serious about this. And I took it seriously and was someone who had the skills and ability to really perform. So anyone interested in a career in project management should probably look at the PMI for resources and for networking with other project managers.
Angela, thank you for being on the Growth Process podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this Growth Process podcast. Visit www.rohlinggrowth.com for more information.